Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Career Chat. I'm Krista Harmon, one of the Career Readiness Consultants at the Kent Intermediate School District. And I welcome Joanne Perschbacher. She is a Chief Financial Officer at our local company here in Grand Rapids, Kamica and Rudvoots. Welcome.
Thanks for having me today.
Well, we're so glad to have you. And I know the students have really enjoyed learning about different roles in business. So we're going to get started with you. You are a Chief Financial Officer. In a nutshell, what is that, Joanne?
That's a really great question. It involves so many different things. It's a broad range of things that we do as Chief Financial Officer. We're basically overseeing the financial activities of the whole company. So we have, the banking relationships, the legal relationships with lawyers. I also oversee the accounting department. So we do all of our own payroll internally, and we do all of our accounts payable. We write checks every week. I sign those checks the good old fashioned way. And we, so it's a broad spectrum. I get involved in health insurance, purchasing that for our employees. So the benefit area. I also get involved in purchasing different kinds of insurance because companies have to have like liability. We're a construction company. So we also have a lot of trucks on the road, various sizes. So we have to insure those and the drivers. So I get involved in all that. So a bit of risk, that's called risk management, when you're undertaking the risk side of the business and, checking into different kinds of insurance for that aspect. So a broad range of things.
So that acronym is CFO. So young people, when you hear that, that's what that is, Chief Financial Officer. So when you look back to when you were in high school, Joanne, did you think you'd grow up to be a CFO? What were you thinking back then?
I was not thinking about being a CFO at the time. I think that back in high school, when I took my first accounting class and just loved it, I probably didn't have a real great vision of what direction I was headed. But when I went into college at Aquinas College here in Grand Rapids, I did decide that accounting was what I wanted to do, or at least I liked the accounting classes, and got my degree in accounting. I think I mentioned to you earlier that when I was going through the interview process, I thought I wanted to go into banking. That's what I really thought I was going to do. My dad was a banker, and I thought that's what I wanted to do. But as I went through the interview process, people basically told me that I liked accounting too much, and banking was really not what I was interested in.
So for me, when I think of accounting, I think banking, somewhat very similar. But tell me how they're different. What was that person noticing about you that they actually kind of guided you away from banking versus accounting?
Right. I think it was that I liked the intricate details of how a business worked. I like to look at the systems in a business. How does one thing impact another? I liked like I said, the debits and credits of accounting, and in banking, they're opposite. Debits and credits are how you track a transaction in accounting, and it's just completely opposite in banking. I think banking is more customer service. I did go into public accounting for a couple of years, and I can expand on that, but that's customer service, and I enjoyed that. But there were reasons that I went into what is called, what I am is I work for a private company versus public accounting. You're doing accounting for various businesses for that firm that you work for. So that's great.
When you think about some of your natural qualities, were you kind of good with money even as a little girl and a teenager? Were you always kind of financially, fiscally responsible? Is that part of a natural trait of who you are?
Sure, I like to save, definitely. Yes, it was a part of, yes, I like to save, definitely. I don't know that it was the whole driving factor, but I'm very numbers oriented, and like I said, I like the system side of things, but I don't know that as a kid that probably I saved. I wasn't a special.
Yeah, I think people I know in this kind of field, it's part of a personality trait. It's part of a natural interest. And for those of you young people that are watching this, you can start to decide, yeah, that is me. Or, man, I'm always letting money come in one hand and out the other. We'll have to see about this one. So you went off to college, Aquinas College. And at that point, had you taken an accounting class in high school, you said? And so that's how you knew it was something you liked?
Correct. Yes, yeah. I took an accounting class, and I did seem to enjoy it. And it came naturally to me. So I did like it. So then I thought, well, I'll pursue that in college. And I definitely, there's a broad range of classes. You take some legal classes, which is really good. So business law, you take cost accounting, which is interesting because I came to a company where we do, because we have jobs that we do, we're again, a road construction company. And so we have specific jobs, and you track all the costs related to those jobs. That was not my favorite class in college, but it's okay. It's a good thing to know. And I think that the classes going through college were very informative as far as developing my interest even further.
Yeah, I really encourage anyone who's even considering business in any way, shape, or form that you really do try to take that high school class, accounting, just to check it out and see where that leads you. As far as you went through college, did you have to have an internship as part of your education? How did you get kind of some little foot in the door into making sure this was the right fit for you?
Sure. When I got into my senior year, I was pretty much out of coursework. So I started looking at internships. That's when I started interviewing with banks. And then I did interview again with some public accounting firms. And those are like the Ernst & Young, or I actually took a job at a local firm. I think they're still in business, Prangley Marks. It was a medium-sized local firm. So we basically, I went through the process of, interviewing for these internships. That's where when I interviewed, the interviewees told me that I really liked accounting too much. So it probably was not banking that I was looking for. So then I switched gears, and I really had not planned to go into public accounting, but that's where I did my internship, which was very good. I really enjoyed it. I did things like we do property tax returns where you account for all the equipment on a tax form, and then the municipality that you're in. So like we're in Kentwood, they'll send us a bill where we have to pay for that personal property. There's a tax on it. So I did all those kind of tax returns. I did some payroll tax returns. I did some corporate tax returns. I liked it. And then they offered me a job. So I stayed on, and I did go ahead and study for the CPA exam. I think the requirements when I took it were different than they are today, but there's an exam. Back when I took it, it was 2.5 days worth of testing, and it was hard, but it was worth it. And the thing about public accounting that's good is that you learn about the importance of checks and balances and tying things out, and you also get the interactions with various companies. So it's a very exciting, interesting career to explore as well. So if people are in accounting, I would encourage, and thinking about that for college, as you're going through college, my advice would be to consider whether you want to do something like public accounting, or do you want to go into a private business or banking, because there's so many options.
And I think one of those myths that's out there about accounting field in general is that you're kind of like in this room with your head down in the books all the time, and there's not really people connections. True or false?
False. Totally false. I mean, it's false if you go into public accounting, because you do go, I mean, before the pandemic, of course, but you go out to clients. Now they audit from afar, but you check the books out of a company. And so you're working with that company and with the people that work there. If you're in public accounting, that's what you're doing. With what I do, which is come into an office, and I don't usually get 15, 20 minutes of uninterrupted time, people with questions, interactions, phone calls, emails. There's so many ways that you communicate now versus before the pandemic, that there's all kinds of different ways that people are coming at you with questions. So it's a constant interaction, which I love. I like that changing pace and the interaction with other people.
Yeah, I just want to put that out there, because I know there's some young people that think, oh, I don't want to go in accounting. It's just all numbers all the time. But it's not. It's very much customer service in a lot of way, or like you say, problem solving. So you're in college. You got your internship. Did the colleges help you with that internship, or did you have to find that yourself? How does that work? At least at the time that you were there.
They definitely helped. And I think that that's still the case to my knowledge, in that they had people back then actually come onto the campus and do interviews. I'm sure with the pandemic, it's done over Zoom or some other mechanism, but they basically interviewed you for the position, so that the colleges had firms or banks that were coming to them to try to find students, to hire or offer internships to.
Yeah, I just want young people to understand that that's part of the process. So you always wonder, how do I get from college to my first job? Just as Joanne shared, those internships are so important. Often they lead to full-time employment. And so when you go to college and they have those career fairs, really take that time to prepare and get yourself ready for it, so you can make that transition right to work. So you did the public accounting thing. So you're currently in the construction world. And like you said, you're working for a company now that does heavy equipment and builds roads. Tell us how you, as a female, got into the construction industry. Is that something you had a natural interest in? Tell us that transition.
No, it wasn't probably something I had a natural interest in. Basically, when I was in public accounting, the thing about that, as much as I loved the work, I love the work, it's a lot of hours, because they call it tax season. So when all the tax returns are due in April, you work a lot of hours. I mean, there were weeks that I was working, from January to April, you know, some weeks it was 55, 60, but some weeks it was 70, 75 hours. And so that's fine. It was very exciting. It, you know, it was good. But then when you're starting a family, that doesn't work as well. So I was looking to set up something, you know, on a part-time basis. And one of the partners at the firm that I was at came to work here at K&R, Cam&Gun Road Roots. And so I called him just to see if he knew of any, you know, part-time options available, or if he knew any actually public accounting firms was what I was thinking, that, you know, we're looking for part-time help. And that is much more available now than it was when I was looking for it. It was definitely an option now, I think, in public accounting. I know several people have done part-time in public accounting. So I don't want to say that that isn't an option. It is, but it probably wasn't as set up when I was looking for it as it is now. So basically we met and he offered me a job and I took it, and I was able to work 4 days a week and raise a family. And I did that for, I would tell you, several years. Worked, you know, for 4 days, 32 to 35 hours a week. And it was just a great arrangement. So I started out as the controller here. The controller is responsible for all the day-to-day activities in a company. So you're basically, you know, the things that I'm doing that are basically, I'm looking at it at a high level, the controller's involved in it and making sure everything is done correctly. So you're looking at payroll, you're looking at the bills that get paid, you're looking at making sure that the people who are doing those jobs are doing it accurately. And there's all kinds of things that are involved in that. But so I was a controller here for a long time, and then I moved into the chief financial officer position.
That's great. It's important for young people to hear that there was some flexibility, that as you want to be a working mom, that was a possibility. But I also really want to point out that networking, that you took the initiative to contact someone to ask, and that, you guys, is a very important skill. It's how most people get their jobs, is making those connections. Have you seen that in other parts of your career where that networking is, you helped either bring people into your company just by getting the word out there? Tell us about networking a little bit.
Absolutely. I think networking is huge. We even find that in the field. I mean, right now there's I would tell you, a shortage of people, but if we can reach out to either people that, you know, are in college currently and tell them, hey, you know, we've got summer kind of work out in the field for people. If they're interested, send them our way, because we're always looking for people to work, you know, sometimes, you know, from May to that August timeframe out, because we do work outside, and that's, you know, attractive work. Some people, the pay is good. And so we definitely network with people that are in, you know, college currently. Of course, there's people that work here that have kids in college, so we reach out that way. And it's a great way to find people in the office too. I mean, we've had several people come in here and work because we know somebody that they know, and we found them that way.
Yeah, it's want young people to understand that's kind of how it rolls. So always to be leaving good impressions everywhere you meet, you know, be on time, you know, be a young person with a good work ethic, because that will pay off. So you got a job as a controller, and then you worked there raising your family. And then what made you want this next level of CFO? Tell me about that natural desire to be kind of more at the executive level now.
Sure. I think at some point, you know, you need to grow and move on, right? And not, as much as I liked that controller position, and it is hard for me sometimes to give up digging into the details of a transaction or the details of why something happened. You know, I find myself still kind of cruising through, you know, payroll on a weekly basis, because I can't help myself. You know, I want to see how it's going, or I'll ask a question, well, could we do it this way? Or how does it work, you know, if we do it that way? And I like systems. So it's really been hard in a way for me to let go of some of that. But I like the decision making. And this is a lot more making decisions than it is doing day-to-day transactions. So I like that aspect of it too. Fortunately, I'm still able to get in, you know, a little bit of the transaction side of things that I enjoy, but I also do human resources, which I like as well, because that's a lot of contact with our employees. And I like that aspect of my job as well. I moved into that before as I was transitioning from controller to CFO, and probably a few years before that, I moved into HR too, and kind of took on some of those. So human resources, which involves not only, you know, hiring, but the Fair Labor Standards Act. So there's laws that, you know, dominate how you pay people, the rules that go along with employment. I just find all that very interesting. I did like my business law class too when I was in college. So there's a lot of aspects of that you can use in human resources.
Yeah, again, I think when I think about natural personality traits, people who tend to go into this field tend to be good rule followers. They like things that are black and white, that there's rules, you either follow them or you break them. So again, young people, as you're hearing Joanne talk, that's part of that self-assessment. You know, if you like those kind of details, this could be a really good fit for you. Part of the series, Joanne, is to help young people understand, you know, really what's behind a business. And you're working in, is it kind of considered a medium-sized business or small?
We're probably the largest construction company in West Michigan for the kind of work that we do. So for the road building, underground utility work, we're probably the largest on the west side of the state. So, right, we're a big size company. We have right around 250 employees we also have an office in Tampa, Florida. So we're in 2 states.
Yeah, and I think that's important for them to know, but that when you're in a company the size that you are, that it's not doing just one job, that you get to learn about other things, and that's where you start to gain those skills to then move up to the, you know, CFO type role. What are some other jobs behind the scenes that we can help young people understand when we talk about careers in business that your colleagues also have to help make Kamiga and Reboots work? What are the things that are behind the scenes?
So you want to know about other positions?
Yeah, just an example of some other people that you work with.
Right, I had mentioned the president of our company. He has an accounting degree as well, and he's the chief estimator. So estimators are people who actually go through the process of, we get all of our work by placing a bid. So the state of Michigan, for example, has what's called lettings, and they do that monthly where they let the jobs, meaning they put them out there for bid. And so the estimators, they know what they're trying to build, but they have to price it. And then we get most of our work by being the low price on the job. So we work for like the state of Michigan that way. We work for municipalities, the city of Grand Rapids, city of Walker. We have various, municipalities that we work for. So estimating is a big part of what we do. We also have another area, which is construction, which we have project managers. So those people basically run the jobs in that they order materials for the foreman out in the fields. They track the work that we did, make sure we get paid for it. Of course, that's crucial. If you're going to stay in business, if you're going to do work, you got to get paid for it. And they track, quantities of things that we do on the job. Then we have, other people who are superintendents. So they're out in the field when we're working during the summer up here, and we work all season down in Florida, but they're out in the field and they're supervising the foremen. Then the foremen are the people that are in charge of all the crews out on the job sites. And then, so we have laborers, people who are shoveling, raking, doing a lot more than that. But like if they're a pipe crew, they're putting pipe together. Those are the laborers. And then we have operators of equipment. So we have all kinds of equipment. We have, excavators, loaders, skid steers. We have our own trucks. And so we have various people that work, out in the field too. So I don't know if that answers. Plus we have a whole we have mechanics that work back in the shop because we repair all of our own equipment.
Yeah, I guess, and that's the thing. I just want young people to understand, that there's so many different positions that make a business work. And for your role, Joanne, is it unusual to see a woman in construction industry, even if it's an office position, or is that pretty common?
No, I think it's unusual. But I think it's a great opportunity. There's great opportunities for women. I do want to point out, sorry, not to minimize that, but I wanted to say too, that we've had accounting students or business students that have worked in the field for us as laborers during the summer. And now they're in here and they're our project managers. It's the best case scenario because they know what we do out in the field then, because they've been out there and they've, seen how a job gets built, how a road or a pipe gets installed. They've seen it. And then they come in here with that business degree, not necessarily accountants, but business. And they put it to work as a project manager. So that's been great for us, or even superintendents.
Yeah, that's what I was writing down, all the different jobs you were talking about. And I noted that project manager, the controller, the HR, the estimator, president. And then yours, of course, are all business degree type people or accounting degree. So all those different jobs just at your one company. And I purposely, you guys picked construction so that you would understand that it's not just banking that you would do if you are going to be in business, or for a big company, that all the companies that you see around our community have all these different types of positions. So your future employer could be in a variety of environments. So that's awesome. What's your favorite part about your job, Joanne?
I think one of my favorite parts is the interaction with our employees. I mean, our employees are basically our major asset, meaning you can have all the equipment, you can have all the things in the world, but your employees are number one. And so I love the aspect of taking care of any, whatever they need. I look at it as our full service aspect of what we do in the accounting department. It's, we need to get them paid right. We need to make sure their benefits are in place. And if they need something that, we can help them with, we want to be there for them. So that's my favorite part, is the interaction with the employees, because that is our number one asset.
Young people always like to know what the worst part is, though, too. Give them a reality check with a CFO. What's some of the not so great parts?
It's probably just days where you come in and you think you're going to do this and you end up doing 10 other that's. So you don't get to what you meant to do in the day. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just is frustrating. But I've gotten used to that, because you don't get through the things necessarily that you thought you were going to do, because other things come into your day. But yet that can be a good thing too. You don't get bored.
Yeah, because I think for young people, they don't want to have to do the same thing day in, day out. And I think that is, again, one of those stereotypes of accounting, that you're just doing paperwork all day long. And it's so great for them to hear that there's a lot of variety in your role every day.
And another thing I want to just say too, and I think that this is important when you're looking for who you're going to work for. I mean, this company is, I just want to say that, and it's always been this way since the day I started here, they're very oriented towards their employees and the community and giving back to the community. And to me personally, that's been a great thing to see. I mean, there's a lot of ways that they, we do some work that is, charitable work, and we do donating, and it's just a good, strong, community-oriented company. And I think that that's an important thing to look at when you're looking for a company to work for.
Yeah, I love that you point that out. That kind of matches our values, what's important to us. And obviously the things you were saying, what you love about your job very much matches the values of your company. So that's terrific. When the high school students, are looking at business, is there anything that you would recommend that they could maybe get some experience while they're in high school? Any volunteer work that comes off the top of your head? Do you have any other entry-level positions in the business side that you let, or even job shadows that you let students come in and learn? Anything that high school students could connect with, with your company?
We've hired people to do things in the accounting department that, are, we hire them for the summer sometimes, whether, if it's high school or, first year college, just to do things in the accounting department, like accounts payable. So we get invoices, they have to get into the accounting system so we can pay them. We hire people for that. Those are just good things to know, good knowledge to have. Number one, you get oriented into an accounting system and you see how it works. You see the function of it. You see what it means to, post in a system, and you see what it means to, create a batch of invoices. So just anything that you could do in a business that just, starting out to learn the day-to-day activities. We do things with truck tickets. We have people in to do that. But I think jobs, even retail, like I did, my first job was in a pharmacy. I think I told you that. And not that the pharmacy side of it was good, but the actual retail side, where I was closing out cash registers and working with money and counting, and then, doing some of the billing, things like that can help you greatly. Any kind of knowledge in a business, and people tend to see your skills so that they kind of push you into those areas once they see you have an aptitude for it.
No, I think that's a great suggestion. And when you think about some of those young people, whether it's older high school students or young college students in your office, what are some of the traits that you're looking for that you want to hire? And did you get some of those positions through networking, or do you post those on your website? Where could a student find it?
We have done it through networking mostly. I mean, I think occasionally we'll post at the colleges if we're looking for people, but I would tell you most of the people that have worked here, it's because we know somebody. So example, one of the people that did my position several years ago, their grandson is here working during the summers now in the accounting department. So I would tell you it's not a lot of it's networking, but I mean, if we have a website where we don't necessarily post accounting positions, but if somebody were to post and they had some kind of a business aptitude, we definitely, or an interest in business, we'd look at them in our department then. So we circulate the resumes. If it, if it doesn't look like something for the field, then we would take it in here and see if there's anything we have a fit for.
That's great. So young people, just, if there's a company that you think you might want to do some entry level, check their websites, see if you can connect through networking, because most company websites have their staff names listed, and you could be assertive and put it email out to them, tell them what you're thinking about doing and that you're looking for a part-time. So that's how that networking and kind of finding those initial opportunities. Students, we have about 5 minutes left with Joanne. So if you have anything you want to ask specifically, be sure to put that in the chat. For me right now, Joanne, I just love that we've given them such a nice broad understanding of kind of behind the scenes at your business. When you think about accounting to start with, and we've talked a little bit about it throughout our conversation, but what are those natural personality traits, but soft skills? The young people are told a lot in school, like you have to do teamwork and communication, critical thinking. So these soft skills are being taught that they have to know. How does that translate to your world of work? Is that important for them to know?
It is important. I think that the things that you said, like sorting things, or I think you said, skills on figuring something out, or critical thinking skills, that's so important. I mean, if you, in accounting, if something, the big question I try to get across to people is, if that, then what? So if that happened, then what else is happening, right? So if something over here didn't go right, then what else? So if something got input incorrectly or got into the accounting system incorrectly over here, well, what else got in wrong that way? Or if we missed something on this invoice, what else did we miss? And that's just a good question to constantly ask yourself, if that, then what, right? So critical thinking, trying to figure out how that happened and what we can do to not let it happen again. I mean, those are some of my fun things I like to do, is if, not that I like things to go wrong, but if it does, then let's put something in there to stop it and prevent it. So internal controls is what that's called, just checks and balances, so that if it happened once, it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I love that real problem solving mindset for sure. We're going to head into giving the students the resources here, but Josiah had a quick question about, do you ever get to work with the stock market? That might be one of his natural interests. Does that ever translate to your work?
Sure, a little bit. If we have any cash sitting around, right, then we're going to look for options, because today you can't earn very much just having your cash in a checking account, for example. So then we look to other ways to earn a little bit. Now, that's not our main goal, so we want to be careful, because we don't want to put a bunch of money at risk, but you're going to look at options, I mean, for things to do. Plus we have a retirement plan. Now, I can't get into advising people in our retirement plan how to invest, but I certainly have conversations over what things we're going to offer our employees within that retirement plan. So just a couple different ways of, how we might get into the market.
That's very helpful to hear that. Thank you. And then one last question. One of the young people, it was a 4-year degree for accounting. And this young person would like to know, was it really stressful for you, studying part?
Yes, I mean, at the time I was working in the pharmacy. That was the job I mentioned. I was working probably 25 hours a week because I was putting myself through college. So it was stressful, but I think I was suited for that, just because I like to be busy and I like to be have a fast moving, fast paced things in front of me. So it suited me. But I think that it's very doable. And I think the amount of studying, or the amount of degree, let me think of it, the years that you have to have is different now for a CPA. So you'd want to check into that, because I think it's like 150 hours now, which maybe is more like 5 years to be a CPA, but I think you can take the test maybe a little earlier. Anyway, it was 4 years when I became a CPA, but I think it's doable. And I think that, yes, it's stressful, but there's not as stressful as, like being a doctor by any stretch.
Yeah. And just to break that acronym down, a CPA is a certified public accountant, correct? And I do believe that's a master's level now, or the additional year for sure. So Joanne, as we finish out, you can be thinking about a word of wisdom that you might want to give the young people here. I want to give them a resource so they can dig into your field a little more. ONET Online, you guys, is a fantastic career research site put out by our federal government. And so that is the address for it, onetonline.org. And I took a screenshot. I went to ONET and I put in the word finance. And so up popped these different career areas. And some of them you may have never even heard of. You might not know until today what that controller was. Maybe you don't know what a financial quantitative analyst is. So that's what I love about this website. It's going to help you explore. I did click on that financial quantitative analysis person. And this was a part of the screenshot of the page. And as you can see, words like investment strategist, portfolio manager. So Josiah, this is something you might want to check out when we start talking about investing and securities. And then it gives you all sorts of great career information. What kind of skills are needed, what kind of education, credentials, wages, job openings. It starts with the simple tasks. So I really want to highly recommend young people that you take the time to go to ONET online to read more about these different careers that got mentioned today, the controller, you know, the project manager, the estimator, and really educate yourself because you don't know what you don't know, and it could be a great fit. Joanne I should have clarified this, Joanne, is it still okay that I give out your email?
Sure.
In the original request I had asked it. So if you have a specific question, you guys, Joanne has offered her email address to follow up, and I can put that in the chat here if you're interested. But of course, always you can connect with me, Krista Harmon at kentisd.org, and I will get a message off to Joanne as well. So let me stop sharing there for just a second. What about that final word of wisdom, Joanne?
Well, I think the thing that I would do as you're going through the process of deciding what you want to do, listen to the people that you encounter, whether it's the people that you're interviewing with or professors at your college when you go to college, or a high school teacher maybe that, you know, knows about business and or knows about things that you're interested in. Please listen and just try to take in what they're saying. Because if I hadn't listened to the people who told me, well, you really don't probably want banking, I wouldn't have ended up down this path that I'm on today, and I've really enjoyed it. So I just say, yeah, listen to the people who are giving you advice and ask questions, but also, yeah, listen to what they have to say.
I think that's brilliant advice, and I would encourage all of you young people to do that tonight. Next time you're hanging out with your parents, or maybe this will be a reason to go hang out with them, is ask them what 3 things they think are extra special about you, or that they skill sets they see in you, because that could be some clues that you're looking for. Joanne, you've been a delight. Thank you so much for sharing such great information with us today. I know the students learned a lot because I did. And you was saying right there, she loved your story. It was really interesting to her. I'm going to stop recording real quick and then let the students affirm you more through the chat.
Thanks for having me.